Hey, Marcus House with you here. Today we are heading to Moho, and the reason we're doing that is because we have found a whole bunch of missions here under mission control. So all these three missions together are pretty awesome. We can pick up this science data from the surface of Moho. We can then come over here and pick up the science data from space around Moho. And we can also pick up, of course, this plant flag on Moho mission, and we can do all these in the one run. Altogether, these are worth many hundreds of thousands of dollars in funds. And entering the VAB, this is the vessel that is going to get us there and back. We have a little glider lander here on top powered by ion engines, and below this we have the main bulk of our Delta V here, our Nerve rocket motor stage. Asparagus staging is our friend here with one single Nerve rocket motor in the middle. We have the small lander can here so that our Kerbal can pop out, hop into the seat in that top glider segment, keeping this whole thing nice and light. And our main core booster stage here is a fairly mediocre set of orange tanks with one single mainsail engine and two solid rocket boosters there on the side. Of course, the majority of our vessel here is protected by one big fairing at the top there, so we can launch here now. Now, this entire mission is crammed down into this one short episode, so we need to cover a lot very quickly, so we're heading through our launch phase here. Now, this is a fairly risky mission, so of course Burberry is our Kerbal to go for in this mission. He's sitting happily down here. We're going to dump those solid rocket boosters there, we don't need those anymore. Leaving our single mainsail engine to do the bulk of our work. This is going to get us up well past our orbital velocity. Like in previous episodes, we are going to raise our apoapsis way up here so that we can let this booster stage drop back into the atmosphere. Just passing 2,000 meters per second. Coming up there to main engine cutoff, and we can now ditch these fairings. These were just set up in a clamshell with three separate parts. They look quite cool, I think. We have the solar panels here for our ion engines in later stages. We'll pop these out here. Now it's time for you, Burberry, to hop out of your lander can and head up here and hop into your little glider, which you're going to spend many days in. Just checking out all of those asparagus stage liquid fuel tanks that we're going to be utilising here shortly, and we'll just board our little external command seat. So we'll just ditch this booster and lander can. You can see here our periapsis is at around 17 kilometers, so all of this is going to fall harmlessly back into the atmosphere. And now, of course, we need to raise our periapsis a little so that we don't fall back into the atmosphere. That'd make this a pretty damn short mission. And probably wouldn't make for a very good view count either. Just a very small burn here to get our periapsis up there to 80 kilometers. So at this stage with our single Nerve rocket motor, our thrust to weight ratio is pretty damn poor, so we need to give ourselves lots of burn time. And we're going to need this especially when we are ejecting out to Moho, which is obviously a very large burn. We are demonstrating here today how to do this without doing gravity assists. A lot of people find gravity assists quite difficult. Although they're possible to do, it does make the mission much more complex. So cramming all of this Delta V on one vessel is a nice simple way to get to Moho if you want to copy this vessel. It will be in the description, of course, like all of my craft files recently. Now we have quite a large burn to do here to get to Moho, almost 2,000 meters per second. Some of you may pick up that I am not very close to the periapsis when I'm doing this burn, and that's quite correct actually. This could have been made more efficient. We had plenty of Delta V here, so it wasn't too much of a problem. So that there was a 4-minute burn, bringing our apoapsis just below the orbit of the moon there. For our second burn, we are going to be ejecting right out of Kerbal's sphere of influence, so this is going to take us a few more minutes of burn time. Our first set of liquid fuel tanks are about ready to decouple, and we are going to be leaving some debris around the place in this mission. I hate doing so, but it's kind of needed with a vessel like this. Just finishing our ejection burn so that our periapsis is down there near Moho. And Burberry waves goodbye to Kerbal for a very long time as he heads out of Kerbal's sphere of influence. Now, Moho has an orbital inclination of around 7 degrees, and of course because Moho orbits Kerbal so quickly, the amount of delta V needed to match inclination is quite significant. And check that out, Burberry is such a good pilot, he can even keep his concentration while spinning around like he's on a carnival ride. So our first asparagus stage liquid fuel tanks is empty now, so we're going to ditch those there. Now, it is possible if you play around enough to intercept with Moho as Moho and yourself pass the ascending or descending nodes. That would of course mean you wouldn't need to correct for the inclination quite so much. So what we're doing here now is a slight adjustment so that we can get our encounter. Just a small retrograde burn is going to get us to encounter with Moho quite well. After you have your intercept there, then zoom into the body, so in this case Moho, and we can just do a few small corrections just to bring that periapsis right down as close to the planet as we can. To get things even more precise, you can lower the thrust limiter on your engine and just make an even more precise burn to bring that in really close. With the magic of video editing, of course, we can speed up all of the footage of us time warping around until we get our actual encounter here with Moho. And now, because we are nowhere near the same orbital speed as Moho was as we entered the sphere of influence, we need to do a pretty massive retrograde burn to slow ourselves down enough to come in to land on Moho. Now we're going to do this in a few passes. The first pass here is going to be to get down into at least an orbit. Our second set of asparagus staging liquid fuel tanks here is emptying out, so we're just ditching those here now. And for no apparent reason, control just switched to our Kerbal. I don't know why, so switching back there to our probe core. And we can continue with our retrograde burn. Now obviously as we burn liquid fuel, our thrust to weight ratio gets higher and higher, so we can wipe off velocity much quicker here now. Just a very small correction at our apoapsis just to slightly raise that periapsis there, and we'll come back into our periapsis to do another retrograde burn to bring that orbit of Moho right down. There we go there. So you may have noticed that we are in a polar orbit. That is for a very good reason. We want to check out the Mohole. Now the Mohole originally was supposedly just a little glitch in Moho in the original game, and it ended up turning into what now seems to be an Easter egg, so we're going to explore this thing. Now the Mohole is placed right on top of the North Pole, that's why it seems to have been a glitch initially. Now before we do that though, we are going to pick up our science readings. We have a contract here to complete, of course. We can now pick up the readings we need to complete that mission later. Picked up some Moho milestones there as well. The contract, of course, is not yet complete because we don't have a massive satellite dish attached to this little vessel. Burberry is instead going to deliver his science data in person back at the KSC. And we're just going to reduce our velocity in a very controlled manner so that we're basically going to come in and hopefully fall into the Mohole. That's if I can do it right the first time. Just wiping off chunks of velocity here as we come in. We basically want to be overshooting the Mohole so we can do our last horizontal burn as we pass over the top of it. So here we go here, we can point towards our horizon and wipe off all of that horizontal velocity. And of course I've overshot that a little bit. Now I need to actually correct that and thrust the opposite way. Ugh. Amateur hour. So that looks a little better. Falling into the Mohole now at least, but I'm probably going to clip the side of it, so I'd better thrust this way. Now, I haven't actually ever been into this thing before myself. I've visited here, but never actually come down into it with a vessel, so I don't know how deep this thing actually is. Although, looking at this, it is damn deep. Very, very deep. I'm just wondering what is at the bottom of this thing, whether it sort of flattens out at the bottom, or... It looks like it just ends in a big point, actually. I just can't tell how close I am here to the bottom. getting close, I think. Just some slight corrections. I'm going to hit the side of the wall here in a minute. Now I'm using locked camera mode here just so that I can more accurately determine which direction I need to thrust towards to actually keep myself just away from the walls here. And I've got my descent here to around 1.5 meters per second. And touchdown? I don't actually know if that qualifies as a touchdown. I'm kind of stuck. I'm just kind of wedged in here. So from a top-down view, here we are in the mohole, finally squeezed into the bottom of this thing. The trick, of course, is going to be getting the hell out of here. And if we just move our camera outside the mohole, we can see right through it. In fact, we can zoom right out here and see just how deep this damn thing is. Check that out. That is really, really cool. Is this classed as its own biome, I wonder? South Pole? No, it doesn't look to be. So anyway, we'll grab all of our science instruments from the surface of Moho. I don't know if you could really call this the surface. I kind of feel like we're quite deep underground, really. So again, this isn't mission complete yet. We need to return these samples before we can complete this mission. So yeah, let's get the heck out of here, feeling a little claustrophobic. So the next lot of fuel tanks have emptied out now. We can leave these here to fall back into the mohole. We still are quite comfortable with the amount of Delta V total we have remaining here, so we're going to visit another biome. We may as well pick up some more readings before we head home. We're going to head southwards down to this big crater here. We're going to go and check that out. Now that we only have the one set of liquid fuel tanks remaining here, the thruster weight is quite high. Now the gravity on Moho is quite high actually, it's around 2.7 meters per second squared. Now you could probably compare this to something like Duna, which is 2.9 meters per second squared. And touchdown there in a new biome here on Moho. Now because I'm not stuck in the mohole this time, I can leave the seat, we'll come down here, land on the surface, and we'll plant a flag. This is the northern sinkhole. We will of course pick up the surface sample, we'll grab that EVA report, and away we go. Using our RCS there, we're going to board, and of course now you can see that we have already completed our plant a flag on Moho mission, yes! Now of course here I realised that this science data I could return would be much more valuable if I grabbed them from the surface of this biome rather than keeping all of those that I picked up earlier around space. So as long as I kept one space related experiment, then we're all good to complete that mission. So we're ready to return here now back to Kerbal. We're going to take off here. We have half our fuel remaining here in our last nerve rocket motor stage. Then we're going to ditch this thing as soon as it's empty, and we're going to then be flying the rest of the way home with our ion engines and our solar panels powering us. So this stage here got us well past orbital velocity. We're going to decouple here now and fire the rest of the way on our ion engines using our solar panels here. Like before, we need to do a massive inclination change here so that we can match up with Kerbal. Never fear though, because we are so close to the sun, we can get loads of power into our ion engines from these 4 small solar panels. So of course we're burning here now to get our intercept with Kerbal, bringing that right up. And there we go, there we have our intercept. After time warping of course into the sphere of influence of Kerbal, we can start heading in now to do our first aero braking maneuver as we pass through the atmosphere. We're coming in here at an altitude of around 50 kilometers. You may have noticed there as we came in that the Kerbal Space Center was a very long way away from where we would like to come in. So what we're doing is 2 passes here, one to lower our orbit, and then the second will be to actually come in and land. So let's see how we go with this. So you can see here our orbit is still very elliptical. We are coming around and you'll see Kerbal spinning underneath us there. The Kerbal Space Center coming right underneath where we want it to as we come in and re-enter for the final time. So we're still doing around 3,000 meters per second here. We have a lot more velocity to wipe off yet. So you'll see here as we come in, we have overshot the Kerbal Space Center by quite a large distance actually. Lucky for us though, we have 4 tiny little winglets on the side of this thing, and this gives us enough lift to basically slowly glide our way all the way back to the runway. I won't show you the entire trip that I made back here. We're going to skip over quite a lot of this. If you're wondering why I'm coming back in this glider instead of just using a parachute, well, you know, that's the fun of trying something a bit different, isn't it? Let's see if we can land this damn thing. Coming down. Come on, come on, come on. And oh! What about the experiments though? Have the experiments survived? Oh god, what a terrible story that would be. Come all the way with no experiments to return. And I think they're all there. They are all there. That is awesome. So we can recover our little broken vessel here with, of course, a very bruised and battered Burberry for a full set of complete missions. So we have there 436 in science just from the ones that Burberry has in his back pocket. And of course now we can recover our vessel there with all of our science experiments. And there is over 1,000 in science there as well. Not that we can use any of this because we unlocked the science tree a long time ago. We have of course also completed all 3 contracts. We have planted the flag. We have grabbed science from the surface of Moho and space around Moho. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Thanks very much for watching. Please do take a second and give it a thumbs up. All of your support helps a massive amount. If you have any questions for me, of course, whack them down in the comments below. Thanks very much to all of my wonderful subscribers. You guys are all just incredible. And for those that haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe to see more. Follow me on Twitter at MarcusHouseGame, and we'll see you in the next video. And holy crap, I forgot to turn myself around retrograde. Crap, crap, crap. Turn, 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 turn. Oh god, everything's overheating. That was extremely lucky to have not lost anything there. How cool does that mysterious asteroid look there under...